Hey, hot nerds, welcome to Hot Nerd Network, the ultimate destination where we celebrate diverse personalities from the real world to the Hunger Games. I'm Hot Nerd Syd, your guide through the captivating worlds of fandom, and I'm not here alone. I'm joined by my wonderful father, First Phil. You want to say hi, Dad?
Hello, hot dad.
Yes. Yes, you are hot today, okay? Especially as we dive into the Hunger Games. We're so excited for the upcoming prequel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, all about President Snow. But there wouldn't be a prequel if there wasn't first the Hunger Games. So I'm very, very excited to dive into it, Dad. We read this book, a while back, but would love for you to tell us, like, how did you get into the Hunger Games fandom?
Well, I mean, it's easy. Um, Audience, Sydney and I, Hot Sid and I, it started with Harry Potter books, and we
Yes.
found because of Hot Mom Cheryl, we yeah, um, as a guy, I always try to find ways to connect with my children, and I'm a guy, so it's easy to connect with the my son, guys. So, but I was stymied because Hot Nurse Sid is so brilliant, and
Oh.
my traditional ways weren't working. So, Hot Mom said, "Hey, you guys, you like books?" I'm like, "Yeah." She said, "Well, Sydney loves books," so we started with Harry Potter, and then it just progressed to this whole fandom, and
Yes.
so that's how I got into the Hunger Games, because at first I did not want to read this book. It did not look like it was going to appeal to me, but, Hot Sid is very persistent and very persuasive, and I love and she was right. She was right. I was wrong as a dad, so that's how I got into it. So it's kinda like we, for all these years, um, been reading books or different articles and peripherals to talk to each other and find that's the kind of commonality, and then that helps us branch off to other things. So yeah, was that too long? Was that too much of
No,
a
that was
okay, okay,
perfect. I mean,
okay.
yeah, I can see. So for the audience, I did go back and actually read the book as well as watch the movie to prepare for this. And I can see why you kind of probably wanted to stray a bit away from it. It's so good. It's such a great book. I think that, like, it gets, for me at least, I really got into it because it was a dystopian. And
Mhm.
Dad, I want you to start thinking about, like, what are some of your favorite dystopia stories? But this one was really being taken from a woman's perspective. And it wasn't like, I think oftentimes we see women in this kind of damsel in distress sort of
Yeah,
mentality when we're thinking of young adult novels, or they're just a bit more feminine. But Katniss is very different. We're gonna
right.
see about why she became that way, and why she continued to be that way. But she does have a bit of a love story here, and like
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
see
yeah.
how that might have detracted you, but also like the parts of this book that are very much about hunting and survival,
Survival.
I think were
Mhm.
also very intriguing for me to see from a fandom perspective. But Dad, like, how does this compare to other dystopian novels or works that you've seen?
Well, I think you hit upon it because, growing up with me, most of my comics and a lot of my books that I read were extremely masculine in
Yeah.
a sense. I go back to one of my favorite novels that, I like was, Casca, the Eternal Warrior.
Ooh.
But I do have to admit, your dad has a femicide, and Flowers
Yes.
in the Attic it was one of the books I read. So I guess I really, I am kind of balanced there, but like probably like 99.9%. That's the only book, that was kind of that way, but we're more of the masculine, macho guy, especially for a young male, coming into his own, to help, not I would say proper, but to help explore your masculinity, those type of books just really um, talk to me.
Yeah.
And so that's the answer to your question. But the real big one for me was Casca, the Eternal Warrior. And if any
Ooh.
of your fandoms could ever go find that book. Woo, That's some good reading right there.
I haven't even heard of that book, Dad. Casca of the Eternal Warrior. I've got to go look. I've never heard of that
Oh,
before.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, that book right there got me through a lot, and plus too, comic books, I'm a big, and and while we're here, I mean, between my children, I've always been a big comic book, X-Men,
yes.
Marvel type thing, so,
Yes.
we used to back before there was this thing called the internet, we used to, what they call it, wait to the, comic book, go to a local 7-Eleven, or for
Yeah.
me, it was 7-Eleven, and wait for the comic book guy to come, and, we used to wait outside in line for him to come, and then we had to wait for the 7-Eleven clerk to put them on the rack, and then he was like, "Okay, you can come get it."
No, I love that. Like you've been a part of the world building, like these just worlds, all of these different worlds for a while. That's what made me the nerd I am today, as well as
Right.
doing all the reading. And so we get to dive into the new world of Panem, which
Yes.
I'm excited to talk about with you. So let's get into it. Let's start to talk about how we're introduced to Panem and to the Hunger Games through this book and through the movie. Like
Right.
I think they both I was just telling my dad the movie sticks pretty closely to the book. And I have to say this is one of my favorite book to movie adaptations. I will say even past Harry Potter because of the fact that it's not that big of a book first off, and also like they were able to really just have it match up so eloquently to it. They only like cut out a couple of different pieces, which I think were necessary for time. But one thing that they did not cut out at all was just how Panem was established. And in the book, we do get a bit more backstory
Yeah.
in the sense that this, which I completely forgot, is a futuristic America. Like
Mhm.
basically, where District 12 is where the I believe the Rockies are. It's somewhere in Virginia, the mountains.
Yeah,
And then
coal mining. Mhm.
yes, and then where the capital is British Columbia, Canada, like over in the west north side of things. So it's just like very interesting to think about what our future as a country and as a nation, as a North America would be like years and years and years into the future, and what are some of the structures that would pop up above it. But they don't even care, like they don't even care about our time period right now. They're just like, oh, we're in the future and they're in this dystopia. So
Yeah.
that world alone was established, and then we learned that there was some sort of uprising that happened, and because of that uprising, the capital, which was the most militaristic at the time, and because of their mountains where they're positioned, they were able to pretty much rule and establish all of these districts and then punish them for now we're going on 74 years at this point through the making of the Hunger Games, where two children from each district have to enter into this arena and
Mhm.
fight to the death until one is alive. How'd you feel about this dystopian world? Like what did you think about Panem when you were first
Well,
introduced
well, again, Panem was like you said, was the epitome of power.
to it? Mhm.
And it flexed his power. And I think even the president said to one of the guy who was the moderator of the Hunger Games was, fear. What can be fear is just a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
And so we could, like I said, we could round up 20 something, 24 kids and just kill them at random. What is that? But just giving someone a ray of hope. So to be able
Wow.
to flex on a whole society, these
Yes.
12 districts, with all these, you assume millions and millions of people, to be
Yeah.
able to flex on that and to suppress the hope just enough
Yes.
is really, really, really powerful. So, you said,
Absolutely.
so your question was, how do I think about pandemic? I think that was the epitome. And again, you could say that it's some, not to get too political, that does speak to all the biggest empires
Yeah.
throughout human history. So yeah,
Yes.
I thought it was really representative to a cautionary tale.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, because it's like how do you even revolt in a space like that. It's very much an idea of like a revolution, at least at its very beginning stages, and why people would be wanting to revolt against an empire like that. I'm excited to explore that in the future books. But this book was I really thought that they didn't do a whole exposition dump. They just gave it that it made sense, and then through the eyes of Katniss, we're able to really explore it more.
You know why do you really have to explain too much more? Because deep down, to me, we all get it. You
We
know,
do.
we all get that there's this hierarchy, and
Yeah.
we got, especially, let's just say America. You got the West Coast with the tech. You
Yeah.
got the East Coast with the blue collar people,
Country.
and you got
Yep.
the people in the middle. You got the Rust Belt. You got the
Yeah.
farmers. So, aren't we already
It's a
in
class system.
right?
Yeah, it's like an authoritarian class system, and I just love that. Class has been on my brain, as a theme in stories for, um, my most recent past, and it was nice diving back into this book because that was a huge theme within this book. We literally see that District 12 and District 11, are pretty much at the bottom rungs of this society, whereas when you get to spaces like District 1 and 2, they don't have as much class I'm sorry, as much power as the ruling class, which is the capital, but they still, get perks, and it gets them just enough to keep them all engaged, to keep them divided. That was a big theme in the story, was how the capital works to keep the districts divided by not letting them talk to each other, by not figuring. I mean, Katniss didn't even know how the culture of District 11 even worked, and
Right.
they're all so insulated into their own districts, and of
Right.
course fighting against each other, rooting against each other in the games. So it's an ingenious system to keep people in place,
Definitely.
and to definitely rule. And we see the ramifications of this ruling system, especially through the eyes of Katniss and other, but especially through the eyes of Katniss. Katniss is a hunter, and we see her on the hunt in the beginning of this story. And she's learned this hunting, and a lot of her personality is built off of her father. And I think
Well,
that's such a
can I interrupt you real quick?
yeah,
Let's even expound more on her being a hunter. She was a hunter crossing over to something, that you should stay away, you beyond
yeah,
your boundary. And so let me be just not just a hunter, but I have to hide my bow. I have to hunt in
yes,
secret. So she's more than just a hunter. She's
yeah,
even one to they're setting up early on that she's willing to go outside the boundaries,
yes.
physical boundaries also. Sorry, go
She's
ahead.
a rebel. No, don't be sorry. That's a perfect point. She's a rebel
Yes.
already,
Yes.
but it's not for the sake of being a rebel. I just, oh my gosh, this book gives me so much chills because the characters are so definitely crafted by Suzanne. Like, she just did such a great job, as we'll see later in the books, where Katniss and Gale will have different sort of revolutionary strategies, but she's a rebel because she has to be.
Mhm.
She did. This is not something that she chose. She is a product of her environment,
Mhm.
and she used to be a relatively happy child,
Mhm.
with her mother and her father, who were in love with her sister, but they were all reliant on her father's income as a coal miner, as a blue collar coal miner, and he died in the line of his work.
Yeah.
He died underground. He got blown up. The canary did not sing fast enough. And in the same blast that her father passed, Gail's father did as well. Gail, her male companion, to her friend.
Mhm.
And we see both of them in the beginning of this novel talking about the reaping that is to come, but on their typical day to day, hunt for resources. And it's because like they have to do this hunt because their fathers were completely taken out as
Right.
sources of income. They had to step into that patriarchal role for their family, and
Yeah.
especially Katniss, as it's just women in her household. But her mother, we learn, went through a huge depression,
Pressure.
and
Mhm.
Katniss really blames her for that. She does not trust her anymore, and she feels as if I am. between, and she literally was at a point in her life, what was between them and death, because
Yeah,
a lot of people
starvation,
starve.
mhm.
Yeah, they starve to
Yeah,
death.
well, even during the reaping, when Katniss volunteered, you know, as she kinda admonished her mom, she said, "That's the last time, don't cry no more,"
No.
because what's this I forgot this,
Primrose.
Prim, because Prim doesn't need that, you know,
Right.
so, you know, it's time for the malaise of depression is over, we don't got time for that,
Is
so, yeah, she showed herself to be a true, leader, and, you know, it's kinda interesting you said, you know, leader, because it's this common theme through our books and in art is that what do they say? The best leaders are the ones who don't seek power. Harry Potter,
Yes.
all these different. Think about it, the people who seek it aren't usually the best ones. It's the
Right.
people who don't seek it but wear it well, and
Yes, you're so right.
they because they really don't want it. So she's kind of thrust into that role also.
She is. You're so right. And especially the parallels between her and Harry Potter. Can't wait to get into her character
Yeah, I don't. I'm
analysis
sorry to go
a
back to
little
Harry Potter,
later.
but you know that was, you know,
No, we
all
should
okay.
continue to. We should
Mhm.
continue to, because there are even more parallels from a
Yes.
personality data perspective between the two as well. So, a pin in that for now. But we do get her and Gail talking about the reaping and how he has his name in there. I think like 40 times, hers is 30, because a part of the reaping, again, a part of this class system, is that you can put your name in more times to get more food for your family. And at a certain point in time, they needed that food before they really got to hunting together. And even just in the book, you get to learn about how organic their partnership
Yes.
was. And I really appreciated, I mean, of course, as Katniss as a character, just that this partnership was relatively platonic to start
Yeah.
out with,
Yeah.
and she can't
Mhm.
even really, and this will be a theme as we go on, she can't even really think about Gale as a romantic partner, even though he's talking about like, let's run away together, we can get away from all of this. It's something that's going to keep on recurring for Katniss. This kind of inability to have to care for one other person in her mind. She can only really take a certain amount of people that she has to take care of. So, either way, they're talking about the reaping. She's not even worried about Primrose because her name
Right.
is only in there once. And so they get all ready. They go to the reaping where they're going to choose one girl's name out, one boy's name out. She's so worried about Gail. She's so worried about Gail. She's so worried about herself. And then we hear Effie Trinket
Yeah,
say,
she does a great job at that, yeah.
she's just amazing. I cannot wait to talk about just the cast of characters that they chose is incredible. And
Yeah.
I'm bringing up her name right now. Her name is Elizabeth Banks, of course. She did such an incredible job on this role. Brought Effie completely to life and gave her even more depth than she had in the book. But she goes up there and she calls out whose name? Primrose's name, and of
Right.
course
Right.
Katniss's whole world falls. I read somewhere, and actually listened to this woman, Stefania. She's wonderful. I'll link her videos down below. But she actually reread The Hunger Games, and she had talked about in one of her videos how you wouldn't know that sort of fear unless you were a parent or you had a little sibling. How do you feel about that?
Oh my god, it's you're absolutely right, having both a little sibling and but parents, you know, once I say, you know, even you, adult, you always gonna be my child,
Right.
and, you know, even though you're out in the world doing your thing, you and your brother out there doing your thing, I'm always gonna be your parent, and, I do know that, you know, you never one friend of mine, before you were born and Phil was born, they will always say, "Yeah, you don't get it until you have one." And
Yeah.
then until I held you and Philip in my arms, I never really understood the self-sacrifice that I would now do
Yeah.
and go through just because of that, you know, those that organic bond
Right.
that we share. So
Yes.
so yeah, I get when she said, "Oh no, 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 no. Not her, take me.
Yes.
Take me." Because it was more level things. If this is a game to the death, no way she
Yeah.
would she has no capabilities to make it to no skill set, no capability. At least me, I'll have more of a chance than her. She's
Yeah.
younger, she has more life to live, you know, all those things you're like, and it's the ultimate form of sacrifice and love. You know, take me and
Yeah.
turn to her.
Absolutely, it was, and it moved the capital, it moved me, it's like no one else rose their hand even for little Rue. None of her s Rue is the oldest of her siblings, but,
Right.
this is not a normal occurrence that a sibling takes the place of another sibling other than in districts the
It's your
District
warm.
1,
But you know what?
2,
What did we find out that this was the first time that District 12 had
the
had a
volunteers.
volunteer?
You're so right. This was the first
So,
time. Yeah.
mhm,
And then I do have to say though, I think and she says it a little later, the only thing that Prim would have been probably really great at is the healing nature and the herbs piece when it came, but not even that, you're right. She's just good at healing and she does know what's good from a healing perspective.
well,
But
okay. Let's go with is 22, what do they call them? Candidates or what do they call them?
tributes.
Tributes. Thank you.
Mhm.
22 tributes die,
Yeah.
and it's her. And so
What's she gonna do? She
what you
gotta
gonna
heal.
heal him?
Yeah, no, she's not. She does not have it's all so interesting. I cannot wait to talk about the other tributes because they all have different strategies. It would be hard to figure out what Primrose's strategy is because she even differs from Rue in the
Yes.
way that they like Rue does have the agriculture skill set. She is able, I forgot that one of her main abilities was jumping from tree to tree. Prim just she doesn't like adventure. She doesn't like to fight. She is a healer. She's a lover, not a fighter. So I think that Katniss knew that about her character and was like, yeah, no, I've
Well,
got to figure this out.
we saw how ruthless Rue was. Uh,
Oh my
uh, the second day when Katniss is up in the tree, and the yellow jackets, um,
tracker trackers,
the tracker
yep.
jack thing. Yeah, she goes. She's like up there, and she looking
I
like
love it.
far away. So she's like,
Yes.
"Hey,
Yeah.
use your
It's
environment."
exactly. It's so beautiful. Yeah, so I think that, it was right of Katniss to step in for Prim and
Yeah.
her whole life flashes before her eyes, but she's not the only one to get pulled from that. We
Yes.
get very much introduced to Peeta Millard,
Peter. Peter.
um,
Peter.
and Peeta, man, he just rocks all of our worlds by being pulled, and immediately she flashes back to a scene of him pretty much putting himself in his abusive mother's harm's way by throwing her a piece of bread when her and her sister and her mother were at their most dire. This is before Katniss knew how to hunt. This was right after her father died and right after they ran out of his rations. He throws her this bread, and you see there's a theme even in the book in the movie. Katniss does not like to owe people. She does
Right.
not like it. She says herself, the first the hardest gift to pay back is the first one. And it's like, dang, Katniss, she's just she's a thinker. And yeah, she immediately is like, "Oh, well, oh boy, who's this guy?" She's always thinking so skeptically about other people, including her we don't get to see her in the movie, but
Right.
her friend Madge, who's the one who actually is the one who gives her the mockingbird pin, is the
Yeah.
mayor's daughter. And then of Peeta as well, just so skeptical, so thinking like you all don't know how it is to live in the seam, to come from the trenches basically. Like you must have had a polished life. But we find out that no none of Peter's siblings step up for him.
Right.
His
Right.
his parents, his in the book, his dad's basically like, I believe more in you than I do in him,
Yeah.
and
Cat. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Katniss, because everybody knows that Katniss is a hunter. The mayor, the big everybody buys from Katniss and Gale. And
Right.
so I think they all believe in her. And I think Katniss was such a great representation of the grittiness of District 12, and Peeta was the heart. So they both pretty much, go on this train, they go off, and we get introduced also in this to Haymitch. What did
Love
you
him.
think about Haymitch?
Well, it was Woody Harrelson brought that
Love him.
character to life.
He did.
Especially, he
Oh,
comes in, he's drunk, and he says,
yes.
"Hold on," you know. Shh, you disturbing my recovering here.
Can't do
But
it.
as we see through the book and through the movie, he did have some great insight into
Oh,
how to win
oh yeah.
and how to play the game.
Yes.
But he was this unlikely support system at the beginning of his introduction. But so how I liked him, I absolutely again we talk about it, we probably keep on talking about as we're going through this recap
Yeah.
is they cast this movie
Perfect.
so well,
Perfect, and you know
so
what's
well.
so interesting? I was watching, I'm gonna link all these videos on the bottom, but I was, I was watching Stefania to prepare. I was also watching this other video on YouTube. It was by a Black girl. I'm blanking on her name, but she was talking about when Rue became Black, and she was basically talking about the huge backlash to the casting of Rue and Thresh as Black people even not too long ago, Dad. I know people want to think that we're
Really?
not in this racist society, but people had a real issue. They still do. I mean, we have Percy Jackson about to be remade by Disney as a television show, and they cast Annabeth as Black. They're still in such an uproar. They hate everybody, not everybody, but a very large faction of people are so upset. You know, they're saying in the Hunger Games that Rue and Thresh had olive skin, which when very much in the books they cast that she says dark skin. I don't know what else dark skin is supposed to be but black, but
Well,
whatever.
it not well, because we tell the truth here. So wait a minute. So if you're so upset about a book being true to form, then if you go to the Bible, when they say Jesus had bronze skin, hmm.
He's not blonde hair, blue eyed. Like it,
So which again, you know me, which one is it? Are we going to if the book says it, then we're going then we're going, or can you have your own interpretations
yeah,
to because is that really important?
it's
Is the skin
not.
color really important, or is the storytelling really important? And
Yes,
that's why I bring that up. I bring that up not to aggravate and not to cause hostility with our fan base, but like I said, let's be for real. What's more important?
what
Is
is?
it let's just because to me, it really doesn't make a freaking difference about the skin color. Just tell the story. Like I said, Woody
Yes,
Harrelson would have been great. You know who would not have been good casting Heyman? Me. Because I
yeah,
couldn't bring that to light, you know?
right. No,
But Woody did.
he did. He did. Him and Elizabeth Banks as Effie. They brought more
Cinna.
depth in the movie. Yes, oh my gosh, Lenny Kravitz as Cinna.
Lenny Kravitz is Cinna. I mean, come on. He just brought that to light. But I'm sorry.
He brought it.
Go.
Don't be sorry. Cinna, all three of them, they had like these kind of little moments because of course the book is taken from Katniss's perspective, but in the movie it's from everybody's, and they all just brought these characters to life. The casting was all point. I thought Peeta. I will tell you in the real time, I wasn't so sure about. I think his name is Josh Hutcherson playing Peeta. I knew him from Bridge of Terabithia, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's not who I really thought about when I thought about Peeta. I thought Peeta was going to be a bit more smooth, but
Mhm.
I thought that Josh Hutcherson actually played a way better. And when I'm rereading it, I'm realizing that he did so well bringing him to life because Peeta's a soft boy.
Yeah,
Peeta's a
yeah, yeah,
soft
yeah.
boy versus Liam Hemsworth, Gale, who was more hardened. So it's just such a great juxtaposition. They did phenomenal, and I definitely love how Haymitch was brought to life by Woody Harrison, and
Yeah.
especially in those opening moments of them on the train, like you talked about. He's not taking them seriously, and she comes into a realization later. Why would you when you've seen pretty much I forgot which
Year
Hunger Games he won, but years of tributes
year after
died.
year after year. He's since he made it, anyone from it, and that's even more insidious and a
Yes.
power flex of the capital is
Yes.
you keep these guys around because
Yes.
you don't really get out of the system.
No,
You become part of the system,
it's
and you got to see people who. No, I mean, how many years was it since he had won? Let's just say
I'll look it up real quick.
maybe 10 years since he won. So he knows these kids. When you're like, wait a minute, I know these kids when they were babies. And
Yes.
I've known them as they grew up, and now I gotta see them go year after year after year to die? Wow.
Crazy. It was 23 years
So
that
23 times 2 is 44 years. So he knew 44 kids. He knew
people
44 people or
Under his
family
watch. Yes.
who had died. I mean,
From
that
District
no wonder
12.
he's drinking.
Yes. What no wonder he's trying to escape. There is no escape from this
Right,
horror for him.
right.
So it really made it poignant. I thought that Suzanne Collins did a great job. And I've not known an alcoholic as intimately in my past, but I thought that just from what I do know of alcoholics, she gave a very poignant story for why somebody might be wanting to escape their demons through Haymitch. And then also for Effie as well. These are both very flawed characters because Effie,
Yeah.
she's a part of the system as the
Yes.
capital. She's very oblivious, but she still has a soul. She still has a heart. And we even see her transformation in this book
In this
start
book,
to
yeah.
recognize, just how the capital is starting to play with the first she's thinking of district 12 like I'm in this sorry district, they gave me this, I'm going to work my way up to a better district, but then she actually forms bonds with them. You could see her mentoring Katniss, you can see her wanting to see them thrive, and how the capital makes it very hard to do so um
And what I like is how with Effie is again where she first started talking. It's so interesting because when she first was talking to Katniss and Peter was, oh, you're gonna have while you're here, like for this time you're alive, you're gonna have the best of everything.
it's
And
like,
then like,
oh
dude, I'm about to die. I don't
god.
give a crap about. Oh, look at the cavern. You got real stainless. I mean, real steel, stainless steel, and crystal glasses, and you got the high rise apartment. Like, yeah, I really don't care about all that.
Right. Well, the one thing that they did care about, especially Katniss, was the food. Like it was so poignant in the book. Man, this book does such a great job of again representing class, representing real desperation. She looked at one of the meals and basically broke it down to how much work she would have to do to get
Mhm.
that meal on the table, how it would come to life. Primrose would have to work with the goat to get the goat cheese. She would have had to hunt and take down a deer to be able to trade it for that special sort of rice. Like it would have taken days and days of work, whereas they just push a button and the food appears, and it's
Well,
insane. It's a different
no,
life.
no, is this book? Check me on this. Is this the book where they went to that one gala, and she so you eat so much? How do you not get full? She said, "Oh, we just take a pill, and we can keep eating." Like, was that this one?
This is
Oh,
the
because I could be
next. That's gonna be catching fire, but
that's
you get a
okay.
great.
So I don't want
Uh,
to fool people.
no worries. It's not a huge one, but it does make the point poignant of how the capital just has so much excess that clearly they could give and just ration out even a little bit to the other districts, but they choose specifically not to
To keep
keep
them
them in their
oppressed.
place.
Mhm.
And so to have, Katniss, I love this, I forgot this in the book, she falls in love with their beef stew, and it made me want some beef stew, but they just have all these different sort of food that they're able to do, and they're ingratiated for the very small time period into the capital's culture. First, through the opening ceremony, which is where she first meets Cinna, who's brought to life by Lenny Kravitz, and they
Love
have
that.
this incredible moment, the show-stopping moment of their costumes basically lighting a flame. It's the first time that's ever happened. Usually, the District 12, they don't even care about that. They put them in coal miners' outfits, but Cinna, which I didn't realize this, but from the book, this was his first year working the games,
Yes,
and
yes. I was gonna bring
asked
that up. Mhm.
he asked for District 12. How'd you feel about Cinna's character as a whole?
I love Simmons' character because to me, he is the give me the underdog.
Yeah.
I like, and that's just I like that. I like if I go to a party or if I'm with people, I look around to see who's no one talking to.
Right.
And I'll like to sit and talk to that person because that
Right.
person is, probably has better backstory because everyone else is pretending. Everyone else is playing a game, playing a role. Give me
Yes.
the guy or girl who's sitting there quietly, or if you try to find out something, give me the worker bees, and
Right.
give me the people with getting their hands dirty. So I sit there really, and then I'm gonna bring my skills because I'm good.
Yes. Oh no, he knew it.
Right,
He was
right.
like, I'm all that. And
Right,
so
right. So I'm good. So I'm going to show everyone to really show my how good I am.
yes.
You guys keep taking District 12 for granted, like that dirty coal miners, because
Right.
you remember when Katniss was they were bathing her, they're like, "Oh, we might have to bathe you twice."
Yes. 3 times, daddy, like, they were like, "You are a mess,
Right,
okay?"
so get I like Cinna because he goes for the, opposed to going for the hype, he goes for the guy or girl who everyone overlooks.
Absolutely, and they made such a splash. He I didn't realize, again, until rereading the book, how much that helped their strategy to begin with. It's just like from every single stage, they were able to really push forward this campaign of them as partners, because also they don't necessarily always dress alike. I mean, so after that opening ceremony, the tributes don't necessarily always dress alike, but Cinna and Portia, which was Peeta's Silas, they always made sure to dress Peeta and Katniss alike. Not only, well, everybody has to dress similarly for the training camp. So we get into the opening ceremony. That's done. We get into now the introduction of the other tributes through
Mhm.
this training camp sort of mentality, and really one of the main groups and cliques that we get introduced to are the careers, basically
Mhm.
called that because they are the tributes from the other the more privileged districts, and this is seen as their career defining moment. Like, they want to be tributes. They actively volunteer all the time because they've trained for this in their entire life. And it really has me thinking about your earlier comment around how Katniss wasn't just a huntress. It's not like she was doing this as a hobby. But for them, they actually are. They are working their whole lives for this moment. I mean, the concept of the careers, and I would love to hear your thoughts on them, and then also what were some of your other favorite tributes that were introduced?
Well, well, the my favorite tributes I'm a geek, so the tech people, everyone from the
Yeah.
tech, but, again, are we doing spoilers here? I mean,
I mean, we came for the first book, not for the second one, not for the
okay,
second
okay, so then,
one. Yeah.
the tech people really don't really shine till
No,
later
not
on.
yet. Yeah.
So stay tuned, we'll talk about that.
Yes.
But
Come back.
I right, right, come back. Well, like, subscribe,
Yes.
and so you can get notified. Um, but no, so the introductions, even though you didn't get to all 12, because to me it was a setup, and
Yeah.
you got to the main players, District 1, who everyone always volunteered, and even, Woody Haymitch said, they train all the time
Yes.
for this, and they always volunteer and they usually win all the time.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so you get instant bad guy vibe,
Yeah.
instant,
Oh, yeah.
nemesis vibe, from the book and from the book did a little bit better deep backstory, but like you said, for
Deeper.
time purposes, for this particular movie, they really didn't get into it. But I did like the way they did set up the duality
Yes.
here. The last district against the first district, you
Yes, they
know, in
did.
in fighting, so yeah.
Absolutely. And just like the first few as well, like they really did, because even by the end, it's the last two victors from District 2, or tributes, against the last two from District 12. So
Right.
it's
I'm sorry, I said District 1, I meant District 2, but go ahead.
District
Mhm.
2, yeah. No, no worries, no worries, because they all kind of blobbed together, District 1, 2, and 3. They were all
Right.
working together in
Yeah, they
this
were
career.
working together, yeah.
So no worries there. I just fresh off my head, but they introduced them. We get introduced to Foxface as well. I was really intrigued by Foxface in this portion too, because Katniss could tell that she had a sly strategy. She could tell that she was smart, and we're going to see her throughout the rest. But we're also introduced to Rue here, and I know we've already been
Love
talking
her.
about Rue, but love her. And Katniss immediately attributes Rue to Prim, in
Right.
both in stature and just her love for her. And we after the well we so they're in the training, they have to now do their own performance for the game makers. And Hamish tells Katniss and Peeta, don't show off your main skills until you get in front of the game makers. Peeta, he does what he does. But then Katniss is trying to showcase, she's the last person the game makers see. And so she's trying to showcase like her bow and arrow skills, but they're not paying attention. They're having a feast until Katniss interrupts them with an arrow through the eye and the apple of the pig. And boy, does that like just change a lot of things up, man. I mean, they give her the highest score of any of the tributes
11, yeah,
at
mhm.
11, that time period. And so she thinks back to herself, wow, that's incredible, but also paints a huge target on my back. And I forgot. I knew that they had done that for Katniss. I knew Peeta had gotten a decent score. But did you remember that Rue, they didn't show this in the movie, Rue actually got a score of an 8. Like,
I do remember that from the book, yes.
yes, and, Candace was always wondering what did she show the game makers during that time period, and it must have been her being able to pretty much travel throughout the trees. She didn't have to stay on the ground, and we'll see that a little later the, um as the games begin, but after
Well,
that.
even
Okay.
during the training, remember in the movie that she's the one, she was causing mayhem by stealing the knife and then going up, and then so, yeah, they showed off her skill a little bit there.
You're so right, and
Yeah.
she did give, like, because Candace was no, Peeta somebody was like, "I think you have a shadow," and
That
she
was
was
Peter,
her
that was
shadow.
Peter.
Yeah,
Mhm.
she was her shadow, so I just love the relationship between Candace and Rue and how it was introduced through the training sessions, and then, we get to the final interviews before the Hunger Games begins with Caesar, and after the
I
training
love
sessions,
Caesar.
after right? We love Caesar. Oh my gosh, he too, Stanley Tucci, he did such everybody
Tucci.
was cast so well. Yeah. Um, and then, you know, uh, there's this little moment between the training and those interviews where Peeta's like, "I wanna be trained alone" by Haymitch, and Kat is like, "Oh, really? Yeah, I knew not to trust you, yada yada, but it's because Peeta is devising this plan to basically confess his love for Katniss." What were your thoughts on this? Like, did you think this was a strategy or did you think this was for real?
Yeah, okay.
Did you think that the love was real, daddy?
I didn't even, this is the part of the books. So going back to my opening statement about why I like books and you and I share together. Yeah, those love interest things. Yeah, okay. I give me the
Let's not talk
shooting, give me
about
the
it.
give me the what they call it, the trident, give me the nets flying and give me the bomb blowing up and all that kind of stuff. All that love story. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Love you, kiss me, bye. So, you know, I do recognize that their whole love story, was a big plot point in through the whole series,
Yeah.
and he said it was an edge to get tributes, to get gifts to help them throughout.
Others, yeah.
That love story was able to turn the citizens against the capital. I get
Yes.
but you ask so I recognize, I understand it. But you asked me my feelings about it. Yeah, I'm not a touchy-feely guy, you know that. But I do recognize it, so go ahead.
I thought that this was so interesting because we are seeing this from Candace's perspective, who is so skeptical, but in a sense, she is a bit of an unreliable narrator because she's thinking that like everything's a game because it is for her. Like that is how she thinks. That's how she processes the world. But I do think that Peeta, this was not only gave her, but it was also a strategy when it came
Definitely.
to, him and Haymitch concocted this plan. And Haymitch was just so frustrated with Katniss because she has little to no charisma. It's like, what
But
are we gonna do
but,
if people don't like me?
her ability to push against Haymitch and to seem even in the movie, um, Senna, when she does that interview with Tucci, he said, "I don't know what to do." He said, "Well, act like you're just talking to me." And
Yeah,
that's what
Cinna.
people
Yeah,
like about it, the fact that you're not forcing the conversation and seeing, contrite or trite with, or playing to the audience,
yeah,
that being authentic,
yes.
comes through the camera.
It
And,
does.
you know, I mean, like, we're talking right now, I believe the audience can tell that we genuinely like this book and the
Yes.
movie, and we genuinely like talking to each other. I think you can't buy authentic
Authenticity, yeah.
thank you. Woo,
Mhm.
that's all that college money paid for.
Sure.
Um, but you can't fake it. Or at least, not, not average folks.
For
So,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, no, you can't, and that's gonna continue. I mean, there were just so many, like, themes or Easter eggs and seeds that are gonna grow as we get to know these characters and we get into the revolution, because that's gonna
Ye
continue to be a strength of Katniss.
so, I mean, you just said one Easter egg, from shooting the pig with the apple.
Yes.
That,
Oh my
like,
goodness.
again, spoiler alert, I mean, we're not gonna speak about it, but that's very important.
It's super important and will continue to
We'll keep
be,
on talking. As you just said, we'll put a pin in that.
we'll put a pin in that. And we're here. That happens. Katniss is upset, but she realizes later how much it would help their game. Um, she 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 accepts it. She thinks that it's a game, but now she has to get into the mindset of, all right, the Hunger Games is about to begin. And I love that Cinna gives her Mockingjay pen. He's the last person she sees before she goes up on that stage,
Mhm,
rises up into the arena, the cannon blows, and
mhm.
we're off to the races. I mean, it's kind of crazy just the huge juxtaposition of the soft life in the capital to now these kids are blowing each other out.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
What did you think about the book adaptation and the movie adaptation for that scene? Because I really had some insights I wanted to talk to you about.
I just Again, I just think that this is one of the best adaptations, in my opinion, because in the book, I mean, you're reading it, but to hear like the cannons go off, everything goes quiet. Katniss is like trying to figure out, do I go run for the supplies? Do I not? She's seeing murder happen right before her eyes. She does, I mean, even PETA, she's like mad at him because he tells her no, but then he goes off and runs. Like she thinks he's playing him. It's just like you can see all this madness ensue. And I thought they did a great job. But what were your thoughts?
No, I'd say this is one of the uh, things that they did right. A lot of times, unfortunately, because we read so many books and a lot of the movie adaptations are, I mean, because they're so compressed with time. And actually, is this the first one where they had a vision that they were going to make a series of books? So they had a little bit more freedom to stretch out things and tell a little bit more plot stories. But I thought
Yeah.
this, just like you, the movie and the book, this particular scene, I thought they did a really good job of it. I think they really captured the
Yeah.
essence of the or at least gave a good vision or
Yeah.
interpretation of the book when it came to this particular scene. And I wanted to bring it up to you.
Absolutely. It was chaos. And I also thought that they did a good job when it came to Katniss's quieter moments. I do think it's quite hard when she's by herself for them to be able to show her inner thoughts, because it's not like
Mhm.
she has somebody she can talk to. And the book does give a bit more context to like how Katniss is thinking about survival, but you can see she knows how to survive. She's a survivor because she's been doing it for so long now in the scene. So she is literally built for this moment. I loved reading those parts of the book. Some people might think that's dull, but I just loved how she was methodically, and how Suzanne Collins methodically showed us how and why she did the things that she did, why she climbed up the trees, how it was dumb. I don't know if you remember, like she was like so mad the first night when she saw Tribute make a fire. She's
Like a
like,
fire, yeah.
try to
Mhm.
like attract everybody here, and it wound up happening. And the she runs into the careers at one point in time in her journeys. They have to speed some stuff up, so we don't get to see all of her survival skills. But I do think that it would have been hard to showcase all that without it being like a silent movie for a good portion of it. So she does encounter the careers quite quickly, and she sees that PETA is with them, and she feels betrayed. Katniss is so, she always wants to believe the worst in people.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah. Well,
she
look at her background. I mean, she had, good reason to believe that.
Yes, she does. She does. And so she immediately is not able to see what PETA's trying to do as far as saving her life, but she's automatically thinking that PETA has already turned on her working with the careers. But the careers can't get up the tree. She can get up the tree. And as you said before, Rue, that's where she sees not an animal's eyes, but Rue's eyes pointed to her, get the tracker jackers. And she does. She saws it. And wow, this is one of the one of the coolest action scenes. Like it drops, and these trackers, they basically mutilate your body because they cause these huge welts. So she has one on her hand, she has one on her face,
And hallucinations. Mhm.
hallucinations, and by the time, like, she even gets down to the ground, two of the careers are completely dead. She's trying to like pry the bow and arrow from the one of the careers is I think Limmer's hands, and Peta runs up at her. He's like, what are you still doing here? Get out of here, get out of here. And she's hallucinating. I mean, we're gonna encounter three mutts throughout the course of the games. This is the first one with the Tracker Jackers. We're going to encounter the Mockingjays,
Yes.
and which were a mix of the Jabberjays and Mockingbirds, and then we're going to encounter the real mutts at the end. What were your thought processes of the game makers and how they were really manipulating things
Well,
here in the games?
it was actually again, the movie did a really good job of how impersonable this whole system is.
Yes.
And, for them to have, like, the sterile white outfits on and,
Yes.
the guy who's producing it says, "Oh, she's at the outer boundaries, coming to outer boundaries. Oh, really? Well, let's steer her towards the other guys.
Let's
Give
start
me
a
some
fire.
fire. Give me a tree falling. Give me another a boulder, a flame boulder,
Yes.
and then push them back together we
Yes.
can see somebody die. And they say, get the cannons ready. Like, God, again, the how it shows how we as humans can be so brutal to each other and
Yeah.
and not think of people's humanity because these are and I thought for the capital to take kids as early as 12.
Health.
12. How's a 12-year-old ever going to these? That's how sinister and
Yes.
how I guess I mean if you're going to be that type of dictator, to take take a 12-year-old because then that keeps your heart into it. It's like wow.
Right.
So how's a 12-year-old supposed to compete with an 18-year-old? Because it was from 12 to 18, correct?
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
So
gotta look back, but
So,
I
answer to
believe
your question, the game makers, I thought again the movie did a great job to bring them to life and to show how dispassionate they were about their job. Not to, yeah, I'm going to send a bolt a fireball at someone's head. And go, she made it through. Like, okay,
crazy. No, I completely agree with you, and that was what actually brought her together with the careers was that fire. The fire was so insidious. It was so like it's not just your typical fire where if
right,
you put it out in the water, it's gonna go away. No, it's gonna continue to burn. It's going to choke you and make you cough up and vomit. Like it just was so terrible. Everything was put in here to basically kill you. Not just the kids themselves, but the actual environment itself. And you know, I'm a huge oh, go ahead.
oh, and not just to kill you, but make your death spectacular. Make it new.
Yes.
Make it TV worthy.
Oh my
It's
goodness,
not
yes.
just for you to die. It's, "Oh, no,
No,
we're gonna really make it." Well, I mean, anyone can die, but
right.
let's let's
Let's make it
let's make this.
entertaining.
Yes.
It's crazy. No, and it brings up like, the darkest sides. I can't think of Hunger Games without thinking of Survivor. And
Okay,
shout out
right.
to our Survivor coverage. Please all go watch that on Hot Nerd Network. But
Mhm.
Survivor, in a sense, does very similar things. We're not gonna just make you vote each other out. You've got to work for it. You gotta be in the you gotta starve to death a little bit and then turn on your tri-mates because they're annoying you, and you gotta go past these immunity challenge, which are probably gonna scuff you up. Everybody has just really bad knees at this point in the survivor challenges, but it's a part of the game. It's what's entertaining. It's what me on the couch, we're like, well, I'm not really one to really want to see them starve, but I love to see them eat food like they've never seen food before. So it's just it's all for entertainment, and I wouldn't go this far, but they are kind of one and the same.
Well, but see, this is how insidious the capital was. "Oh, if you don't do it, we got somebody else.
Ah, we'll just replace you.
We just
We have
replace you.
24
And then
tributes.
then we'll put you in one of those other districts and then make you put your name in a fishbowl."
Right, right. So it's really wild, but we don't have the tributes just turning against each other, we also see them forming allyships. And one of my favorite lines is Katniss saying, the careers aren't the only ones that can form allies, when she meets up with Rue again after the Tracker Jacker incident. So they both come up with this plan to basically to be more proactive instead of reactive, destroy the cornucopia, since the careers have basically taken it over and
In base
are,
camp. Mhm, mhm,
yeah, it's their base. They have all the food that they've stockpiled, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. So they form this plan. It's a great one, honestly. And Rue is going to be lighting different fires so that it lures out the careers to go
mhm.
and see if they can go keep killing. But there's this one guy from District 3, which I forgot is the district that is known for like weaponry and explosives and stuff like that,
Okay,
because
okay.
he's the one who's able to take, you know how if they in the beginning if they stepped off of their mat too early they would blow up. He
Mhm.
basically takes all of those mines and forms a booby trap around the cornucopia
Yes.
to blow up whoever is going to be there. And Katniss doesn't even realize this until Foxface, who has been taking the strategy of following the stronger people and just stealing their food. She sees her hopping around trying to avoid the mines, and Katniss has the ingenious idea of, let me shoot an arrow through the apple bag so that the apples blow up and they won't even know that they won't even think of who was actually, or how did she think about it? That way I don't have to die, but
Right,
also it will set off enough mines so that it doesn't alert them before I can set off all the other ones. What did you
right.
think about this plan?
Well, it actually, if you said a couple of things, so let's back up a little bit.
Yeah.
Tucci's character, what was it Tucci's character again?
Caesar.
Caesar. Caesar said, in the movie says, as we start seeing the careers get together, just before that, it's a screen, it's a pan to him. He says, I see alliances developing. So then you started, they planted that seed. And
Yes.
once again, goes back to something that Hamish said in this movie. I'm not sure we said in the book, but I think he did.
No.
The arrogance will get you killed faster than
It
anything
will.
else. And so we
Yes.
do see the careers, the arrogance,
Oh yeah.
again, I use Avatar. One of the things that Avatar with the big bird, he said he's so much of a hunter, he doesn't even look up. He's
Right.
always looking down. So the best way to attack him is from the top down. So that's
Yes.
what we see happening again. Your arrogance, underestimating your opponents. It's the
Yes.
same thing, like we said, the people who are the least who you think can be strong,
Mhm.
they got a lot of strength inside them. They just choose how to use it. And
Yes.
so, yeah, I thought it was great play on in the book to show their strength. Find your own strength. You
Yes.
don't have
Your
to
own
be a guy or
strategy.
a girl who can throw a knife or um, uh, uh, wield a sword.
Yeah.
You got, like I said, you got great skills too. You can take apart a mine, reformat it, and make a booby trap. You can start a fire, and we have a strategy to make them with their aggression
Yep.
to go out and then pick them off as they go out. So
Yes.
I thought it was really good.
It was so
Just
good.
be humble. So humble, being humble can really in these type of situations can really help out.
It can, and it did damage. It did severe damage. I mean, they all had their own strategies to play, and yeah, they kind of really played on that underestimation that the careers had. And I mean, even it was crazy. Kato was so upset. He even kills District 3 boy, like
Yeah,
somebody else that they don't even have to kill. It's just it was so crazy. I mean, just how it all played out, and she's so on a high of the victory, but then she immediately gets worried about Rue, because when she goes to their meeting place, she sees that she hasn't even lit the third fire. So she goes, and she's trying to find her. But as soon as she sees her, because
yeah,
she hears a scream, as soon as she sees her, it's like in the book, it happens literally in a couple sentences. She
yes,
sees the knife go through her, and then Katniss immediately kills the boy that sends it through her. And I mean, I swear, Dad, it happens even quicker in the book than it did in the movies,
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah. I did. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
it was
because
just crazy.
because in the book we knew. you know, I don't know about you, but sometimes I purposely don't form attachments to characters
Ugh,
because, you know, just to move it along, you know somebody gotta die. No, everyone
right,
can't make it. So I find myself when I read books, okay, don't get too close to that person because I think that person is
right.
gonna die.
No, and her death is the largest metaphor in so many ways across the rest of this series. I mean, just even in this singular moment, that to Katniss was like her sister dying,
Yeah.
like right in front of her. So it it's traumatic. We see like Katniss has to push it away, and but every single time she gets reminded, it's hard for her. I absolutely love that, she puts together this flower bed.
Mhm.
And I always thought this flower bed was so interesting because Stefania talks about it in her book club. Stefania, who hasn't read the rest of the books, she's like, I
Oh,
just don't
wow.
understand why the flower bed was such an act of rebellion. But when I was listening to her, I was like, the reason why it's an act of rebellion is because these districts are supposed to hate each other. They're
Yeah.
supposed to want to kill each other. This is what the capital was. They want to keep them separate. Yeah, they may form these alliances, but at the end of the day, they know that they have to kill one another. And that was not what Katniss was showcasing right there. She was like, no, I'm going to give her an honorable death. I've learned so much about Rue. I've learned Rue was the one who taught her the Mockingjay song,
Mhm.
who even really um, taught her about all the doings of District 11, who healed her wounds, who she just was a true sister to her in that space, and her death speaks vibrations of to the point of that beautiful send off inspired District 11 to send her that bread from their
That bread.
district.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's
And
wonderful.
again, it goes back to what the president didn't want. The last thing he wants is another district sending tributes to another district because then that forms this bond that he does
Unity.
not want.
Yes, it's hard. So, that whole very traumatic events happened. Katniss is still on her own. She's spiraling. But in the movie, they show us this. They did not show us this in the book. Haymitch is seen convincing the game maker, the top game maker, who Cinna. No, not Cinna. I
Not
don't know.
necessarily. I know that character. He's been his look, especially he was the one where they put the arrow through. He turns his head, but I know you're talking about. Go ahead. Mhm.
Seneca, that's his name.
Okay.
Seneca Crane. You had said it earlier, Crane. He's convincing him, let's let two victors win to get them more together. So because PETA has not been seen since the whole Tracker Jacker incident. And as soon as one thing I wanted to bring up is I thought it was very interesting in the book. There's three parts to the book. And this kicks off the third part, the
Yeah.
tribute. What
Yeah.
kicked off the second part was PETA's um, declaration of love.
Love.
And
Hmm.
so the first one, the first part, I believe, is called the tributes. The second
Okay.
part is called the game, which
Hmm.
is kicked off by PETA confessing his love. This part is called the victors. And the first word that's uttered is Katniss saying, PETA. She can't even help herself. She yells it because as soon as she
Right.
hears this announcement, she's like, I can go and find PETA. So who she's been avoiding because she doesn't want to kill him. So she goes, she finds PETA. PETA has made himself his painting skills have come
Yeah.
to handy. He's painted himself into the river stream,
Hmm.
and she basically nurses him back to life because we find that Kato has given him this cut in his leg. And their love story really starts to ensue. And this is where I had completely forgotten this. Even from the movies, we're not seeing Katniss's inner thoughts, but in the books we are. And just this back and forth between Peeta and Gale. She's comparing Peeta to she's like Peeta doesn't know how to track. He doesn't know how to hunt. He's causing all of this noise, but Peeta is playing up the romantic side and. Haymitch, she's basically talking with Haymitch in a sense, back and forth, like every single time she kisses Peeta or she declares some sort of love for him. That's when Haymitch sends her things from the sponsors to save his and her life. I'd love to hear how you felt about this part. They spend quite a big chunk of time really fleshing out Peeta, um, Katniss nursing him back to life, and really setting up the feast, she has to go get this medicine for PETA to really
Save him.
save him. I mean,
Mhm.
how'd you feel about this part of the story?
I'm not the most sensitive guy.
Do it.
No, I'm
Big.
just saying it's part of the story, so I internalized it like that. I didn't. I mean, it was part of to put the mood for me. I mean, I guess it was moving, but uh, it was to me. It was just fact to move the story along. I'm sorry.
Like, ah, la 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 la. Yeah,
I try. Hey,
I guess. No, I mean, it was
if you ask me about the volcanoes and like the tracker jackers and well, that's other parts of the book, other books with it, all these different things that come out at them. Like, ooh, I love the part with this happened, that part, this part. I'm like, okay, yeah,
you have to admit that these are really great plot devices as well as character building moments when it comes to why these people had to be brought more and more together, because we'll see at this feast, you know, Clove almost gets the better of Katniss. She
Katniss, yeah,
hits her in the face with this knife. She's about to carve her face up like a pumpkin. Shout out to Halloween around the corner.
yeah.
And she's talking about, oh, I
You
you
start
know, don't let the
monologuing,
girl die. She starts monologuing like a typical villain, and that's what gets her killed. It's always gonna get you killed as a villain if you start to monologue, because Thresh hears her, she hears her say Rue's name, she hears her talk about her death, and he saves Katniss. And him and Katniss are on the same page about owing people. He's like, I don't want to owe you.
you're even.
We're even now. And Katniss, she goes back to PETA, saves his life, and yeah, they're back on the running. And this part of the book, it's not even like slower. It's just again diving more into their romance. We won't talk more about that. But PETA's now back up on his feet, and he's able to. Well, she's trying to hunt with him, but he's scaring off all the animals. Like, she's not able to hunt. She's like, I wish Gail was here. Gail's probably laughing so hard right now because I'm not able to do what I do. And Peter's like, okay, I'm not able to hunt, but I can gather. And he gathers some, what we're going to come to find, nightlock.
Yeah,
Katniss hears a cannon. She's so worried. She's running, trying to find Peeta, trying to find Peeta. It's not Peeta, but it's because of Peeta that Foxface goes, and
still
she's
the
the one
food.
who eats the nightlock. We talked about just before underestimating your opponents, but in the book, Katniss talks about overestimating Foxface, and just how that same strategy is unbeknownst to her of eating food, and Peeta's ignorance paired with that is what basically is Foxface's downfall. What
Yeah,
do you think
yeah.
about that?
Well, or is it just fate, or sometimes you just get lucky. Sometimes in life you're just at the right place at the right time, and you
Yeah,
meet somebody and they give you some information and you go for it. Sometimes it's just dumb luck. To
yeah,
me, I get there could be, but to me, there could be some ulterior motive why Susan Collins put this stuff in here, but it's Collins, right? Susan Collins, right?
yeah. Suzanne Collins. Yeah,
Suzanne Collins. Is that why she put that in here? But to me, mostly it's kind of like it was just well, like I said, it just helps. It was a clever way to weed people out.
yeah.
It
It
was a
was
clever
very
way
clever. Yes.
to yeah, to not to kill Foxface, but for her to die. So because sooner or later you got to thin the herd, and that
You
was a
do.
clever way to thin the herd.
It was each, and that's why I keep going through each of the points. The cornucopia getting destroyed, Rue's death, the feast, the nightlock. Like, these were all very clever ways to get down, and believable ways to get down to the final showdown, which is these genetically modified beasts. Basically, I mean, they say that, like, actually what happens in the book is that they drain all their water, so they're forced to go to the lake. Katniss and Peeta are already at the lake, but Cato's not there, and Kato comes running out of the woods. And this is not what happens in the movie. In the movie, they hear these beasts and they all start running towards the cornucopia because they're all trying to, like, not get mutilated by them. And so we get this final fight where they all get up onto the cornucopia, but Kato grabs Peeta up. He's basically like, if you kill me, I'm going to take him with you. take it with me, but he's choking him. And finally, PETA's like hit him right here on the hand, so he releases me and pushes him into the wolves. Now, what I thought was very interesting that was different between the book and the movie is that the book they have to wait all night hearing Kato scream because
Right.
they've dragged him away. And Kato has this armor that doesn't allow them to necessarily kill him quickly. So it's like hours and hours and hours and hours of PETA and Katniss basically holding and shivering themselves, hearing the torture of Kato. Whereas in the movie, Katniss, for timing purposes, but I also thought in her nature, kills him pretty quickly. I
I
mean,
like the book. I like the book better because
oh,
let's look at Caleb was a really bad guy, and sometimes my dark side is if you're a really bad guy like that, do you really deserve a quick death? I mean, I want you to die, but should you kind of like I said because it's I get you the Hunger Games, but his he reveled in it. They trained for it.
oh,
He
yes.
basked in it. I mean, it's something to be a benevolent killer. You're
Yeah.
killing out of necessity. Your survival, mano a mano. If me or you, I gotta do this to survive because if I don't, I'm gonna die. I get that, but then but to take it the other step further and to do it out of joy, yeah. I like the book better version. I like the book version better.
Yeah, I mean, it goes either way for me. He definitely, because if it was the other way around, he says it. I want to give Katniss a slow death. Like that's what I would have preferred. I would have preferred to torture her for what she did to Glimmer. Um or whatever. And so and taking our supplies and yada yada yada. But I thought that it wasn't a bad change because Katniss
No, it
realizes
wasn't bad. No, yeah.
also in the book, she realizes like Kato's a part of these games too. Really, who I'm mad at is the Capitol for allowing this sort of space to even exist. So that's why she kills him off so quickly. She's so excited. She's like, "We did it. We won." And they come and they're like, "Psych, y'all have to now fight to the death too." PETA, of course, is like, "Kill me, kill me, kill me." Katniss is legit scared and about the trauma, the PTSD that she already is going to have, but would have from killing PETA, this boy that she can't admit to herself that she has fallen in love
Oh,
with.
yeah, yeah. Mhm,
And
mhm.
instead she'd literally rather die. So she's being smart. She's like, they're not going to allow both of us to die. They still need their entertainment. They still need their victors, which I love that this part is called the victors. So they take the night lock. They have a Romeo and Juliet moment where they're both about to take it, and they're like, "No, no, no! Y'all won!" So we see them get lifted out in the movie. The movie wraps up a lot quicker than the book does because we're left in the movie with Snow,
Mhm.
who we have not really seen. He's so ominous in both the book and the movie. He's just appearing in certain moments to drop those little one-liners like you're talking about just the fear, but we're left. They know how to show and not tell us in both the book and the movie. We're left with Crane having to eat the Nightlock himself.
Yeah.
What do you think about that as a
Well, I mean, again, did he do his job? Nope. So, Snow's like, "Look, somebody going to die here.
come on.
We're gonna so we need some entertainment somewhere, and I can't have you didn't do your job because now I gotta deal with now I gotta deal with your problem, so why I
Right.
don't need you no more."
Exactly. No, I man, it's so interesting. You were left with that and what a start to a series, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I just think that this was such a great first book of a trilogy because I mean, I even before this I was like, okay, I want to start reading Catching Fire now.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, again, I give mom and you all the credit because I did if it was just me traditionally, I would never gave this book a second look. Or first look, excuse me. But it was entertaining and like I said, the book was way okay. But that's everyone says it, the book is way better than the movie. But they did a good adaptation on it.
Great job.
So yeah, they did a great job. So no, I again, how many years ago would this been? Since
Oh, I don't really remember.
when it first came out, it came out in 2000, like 13? No, no,
2008.
8. Okay.
Yeah, so it's been some time.
Right, and
So
we like it, and I think it crosses over with a lot of different, demographics,
yes,
and again, if you look at it in the prism of it's a great story, you
yeah,
know, regardless of the person's gender and color and creed, it was a great story.
it was. It really was. So no, really excited. Glad that we got to kind of dig deeper into the plot itself and even some of the characters. Before we wrap up, I did want to do a little bit of character analysis, mainly for the main characters
Okay.
here. And we're going to be thinking about this from the perspective of Myers Briggs. So, for that, I mean, what is your you know a little bit about Myers Briggs from me. Do you know what yours Myers Briggs is?
No, remember, I mean, I know a thimble size.
Well, okay, for the audience, my dad's Myers Briggs is ESTJ. Okay. And I'm gonna share my screen here just so like we can stay on the same page. Can you
Provider?
see? Yes, so this is going to be in this stage oh, no, this would be for you, the supervisor. I'm gonna scroll
You
it.
would say I'm a supervisor.
Yes, yes. But the S and the T, when we're thinking about this in the quadrants, let's go from the beginning actually. E and I are the two poles, the first poles. There's the extroverts and the introverts, which is very self-explanatory. Then there's the way you process information, and that's going to be sensing or intuitive. I'm an ENFP. So for you, the way you process information is through very pragmatic, realist, like actual facts, real world experiences, what's actually going on around you. You're very attuned to the world versus all in my head. I focus on patterns, future possibilities, and just I love abstract thinking, themes, things of that nature. And this is a spectrum. So I feel like this is the one you're probably the most, this is the next one you're the most in the middle of.
Okay.
But then you have T versus F, thinker versus feeler, which is kind of self-explanatory. Then you have J and P. J meaning like J's like to plan, make lists, like they like to follow, be on time,
Me?
be on
Me?
time.
No, I'm a
Highly
free flow type of guy. I don't need
Oh, okay. Okay. As somebody who
me?
grew up under your household, I will say I beg to differ. And then we have the P's of the world who's flexible, we could go at any time and
I'm
do
a
things.
P.
Oh, oh my gosh. I can't wait for mom and brother to see this so that they can be like,
Liar.
So, do you feel like you have a little bit more of a gauge of each of these?
Yes, I did.
Okay, cool. So, first off, let's start with Katniss. Do you think she's an extrovert or an introvert?
Introvert.
Yeah, I would say she's definitely an introvert. So let's go to the next one. How does she process information? Is she more abstract thinking, future possibilities, patterns, or is she very much a realist in terms of what is specifically going on around her?
Realist.
Sensor. Okay. Between the thinking and the feeling, does she lead more with logical and analytical decisions, or does she lead more with her heart?
Her heart.
Oh, you think she leads with her heart? What makes you say that?
Well, I mean, think about when the pig incident we just talked about. Think about when Hamish told her, "Run
Oh,
straight to the woods. Don't go for any of those things." She went with her heart. She didn't go
it's
for her head.
so
She went with her heart. All
interesting.
those things she did building up to the games was all heart related. Especially when she bowed and said, "Thank you for your audience" or something to that. That's all heart. That was not planned. Because if it was planned, she would do what Hamish told her to do.
You're so right. I mean, man, I will say historically has been seen as a T because of
Mhm.
and I will attribute some of her T attributes to like her not wanting to owe people back or feeling like, I or like, wanting to be more calculated in her decisions, always saying like, this is what this person can do, this is what this other person can do. That's where I see her tease coming out. But you're so right that she has these bursts of emotions that, like, and because everybody has emotions, but hers, she lets that lead her a bit more than I think somebody who was fully a T would. So that's very interesting. I will take your I'll take
I've
your
been
hypothesis.
around you. I've been around you long enough to get these little insights. Go ahead.
Thank you. And then the last one here is just the need for structure. Is she more of a planner, list, following things, or is she more flexible?
I think she's more flexible.
I think so too. She's able to be adaptable, think on the fly, and that serves her well in the games.
Yes,
So,
it does. It does.
yes, we'll leave that there. I feel like in our next few, thanks for indulging this one, but in
No,
our
no, this was fun. I like this. We can do that in the next ones. We can dive deeper into these characters.
exactly. But for now, we'll leave it at that. I really thank you so much. That was a wrap of our Hunger Games recap. We hope you enjoyed this journey through the heart pounding action and thought provoking themes of this iconic franchise. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more exciting content here on Hot Nerd Network. Dad, what do you have coming up?
Oh goodness, me and brother, we have the first word, and we're going to do some recaps on Invincible, and
What?
that's coming up. Yeah, yeah, because we nerd out here with in Hot Nerd Network. When Sydney came with this idea, I fully embraced it because this helps it feeds my nerdiness also. So look out for the first word and heck, what else we got? We got on your network. So Sydney we got you like sports,
Survivor,
we got
War,
Survivor recaps, we got movies recap,
Power. Yep.
power recaps. So yeah, click like and subscribe because I think the Hot Nerd Network and we're building our subscription base, little by little, one person at a time. So please like and subscribe, and so you can get more future content. And also comment. I always tell people a
Yeah,
lot of good comments back on the first word, and it's really cool.
it is.
So
So
you go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, yeah, just whatever your favorite scenes were. Do you think that Candace is more F or more T? Whatever you think, please comment.
Yeah, please do.
Yes. And as always, may the odds be ever in your
Your
favor.
favor. What
Bye,
is
y'all.
bye, y'all.